Mike, let's start to talk now a little bit more around process, or cover some processes, and then we'll kind of we'll move into the sort of people side of things. So where's Big Beat with your transformation to data-driven operations, Mike?
Well, it's been a journey for sure, and we started 7 or 8 years ago on a quest to capture and own all of our own data. And so we have written our own point of sale code. So we don't have any third-party software in our environment for the point of sale system. And so that was just a massive investment to pull that off. And we went live January of 2019 with that code. But what that's allowed us to do has been remarkable. And to give some context on this, 4 years ago, the budget I had in place for IT for my organization was about $300,000. I think this year it's going to be about $1.6 million. And so because we have to work with the data, we have to continue to bring the data in properly. So we wrote the code. Then the next thing we had to do is we had to put it inside of a data warehouse, which we've now done. But we were able to take all this disparate information and put it in one place. And then that's really becoming powerful in our world, because now we've been able to do all kinds of different things with that data that is allows us to actually be predictive. We're getting to some really cool stuff. I was learning that we're doing some stuff with forecast based on weather. Forecast based on seasonal information, forecast based on whether people are dog lovers or not, forecast. It's just this really crazy stuff. And you wouldn't, and so again, we go back to this issue of, I'm like, God, are we really going to use information about somebody being a dog lover? Like, I don't know, that seems a little personal to me, but somehow we figured out that somebody's a dog lover and away we go. Right. So anyway, I think that big companies, I think, have a whole bunch of really smart people around a table and they're working on this stuff. A company like mine, I mean, it's an awkward space, because everything is just so expensive. You talk to companies and all of a sudden they roll out, well, I mean, a $15,000 a month budget's nothing, right? Well, a $15,000 budget to a company like mine is extraordinary, to do some piece of work or whatever it might be.
What about the hurdles to kind of organizational adoption? What has that? Because obviously you have to build it all, you have to do it all. The company is a size that you can't just, I guess, call a meeting and see everybody. So what are the kind of challenges around that?
Well, I'm in a peculiar space because I'm a franchise company, which means my stores are owned by individuals, right? And every store owner has a different opinion on what we should or shouldn't be doing, right? So, I'll take it to whether we should be wearing masks in stores. So there was a whole huge conversation that went on for weeks about whether masks were legit, or we should be wearing masks or we shouldn't be wearing masks. So, and it's the same thing on data analysis. Should we be using people's private data? Should we be engaging that, or should we not? And if I don't, then I run the risk of the person who, let's say someone's made a massive investment in stores. They've put their life savings on the line to build 3 or 4 stores. Let's say it's relatively new in the process. They're losing money. They're going to look at me and they're going to be like, you got to do everything possible in order to help me generate more revenue. I don't care about, who thinks what. The law says, boom, let's go. And then we've got people who are, much more conservative about using data and so on. So my organization's a little bit different because of that. And it does make it more challenging. And that's why for somebody like me, regulation would be fantastic, right? Because it would take a lot of the decision making out of it if we could get to some place. But being a multi-state company, it's all over the place in terms of what we can do and can't do.
So, Amy, let's ask you if we can. So, your job focused on introducing tech startups to the university community. And what I'd like to talk about a little bit there, actually, is the kind of, unfortunately, I want to go straight to on the follow-up, which is, what's the most exciting AI or data science technology that you've seen developed by an entrepreneurship venture in the last couple of years?
Wow. I mean, I see it. It's really hard to like separate out, is this an AI company or a different type of company? Because I think all companies are actually becoming AI companies, if that makes any sense. Like, because they kind of have to succeed. One of the ones that I'm really excited about is Census, that just came out of the University of Michigan. And they're doing data scan. They're using AI to scan data as a security for security purposes, right? And then there's just like our faculty are all working on really interesting things. I can go back to the emotion recognition idea, and this started as one of our faculty working with the Depression Center, looking at speech patterns, right? And if you can monitor speech patterns, you can tell if someone's going into a manic phase or into a depressive stage. And then you can apply an intervention to help prevent one of those stages. And if you think about that, you can really extrapolate on lots of different ways that you can have a positive impact. But I think there's, back to the security question, you have to be really careful about what you're sharing and how you're sharing that information.
Absolutely, of course. Thank you very much indeed. So there's some sort of sense of, of what people can do with it. There's some sense, Mike, of what the challenges are around it. So now I'd like to talk, if we can, particularly around people, around the building and managing of teams. Because if we want to achieve everything that the enormous potential of AI offers us, and we sort of addressed the data, and I completely accept the security issues and the trust issues and that sort of thing. But we need to get the people right, because we need to get people behind us if we're going to do and achieve any of these sorts of things. Reynold, again, as the most obvious person in a sort of typical pyramid command and control type of organization, therefore with people behind you, how do you, what's the sort of, what are the rules that you see them, or the best practices, the ideas that you have, if you want to get people on side to do something really, really well, where you need them to act with integrity and trust?
I think the best way maybe to talk about that is to think about the 2017 hurricane season, right? So in 2017, you remember we had 4 major hurricanes, right, that we were dealing with: Harvey, Irma, Maria. There was Jose and Nate, actually, that had impacts on us as well, that from Northcom's perspective, we were dealing with. And so we deployed about 58, probably a little more than 58,000 people, and we moved over 1,000 tons of relief supplies to the region, right? But while we were doing that, we had wildfires in California and Oregon that we were dealing with and supporting to take care of. We were sending relief supplies to Mexico as a result of 2 major earthquakes that were happening at the time. And then if that wasn't enough, there were 2 ballistic missile launches from North Korea, all in that span of August until November, that we were dealing with. And so, from building a team perspective, part of, I think there's a couple of ways to do it. I think one is that we talked about, I think Jason or someone might have said it at the beginning, is it's the magic of the problem. It is getting people focused on the problem that you're trying to solve, right? And so from a big data, perhaps a data scientist perspective, it's a kind of forming the entire effort, right? Get everybody thinking the same way. Some people in the leadership world will say, oh, it's about vision, but it's really getting people to think about the problem itself in the same way. And then you get to precision execution, I think, where the data part comes in, right? From a leader perspective, it was not so much the data, there was a lot of data. But how do I turn that into, and maybe that's the knowledge management part, how do I turn it into actionable decisions that I can make that will impact the overall outcome of not only the organization, but the mission that you're trying to accomplish?
Christy, so principal data scientist and manager of data science professional services at Domo. Obviously, data science and all that sort of thing has changed recently. But I'm curious, the follow-up question on your sheet there is, what are the common factors that lead organizations to success in their data and AI programs?
Yes, this is one of my favorite questions because I think that every customer I've ever worked with has really struggled to execute on it. So I think it's something that everybody could benefit from. The first thing that I think is really important is a very clearly defined problem. And the organization needs to agree on what that problem is. And after you decide that you want to focus on one problem, and you know that it's an important problem, and you can think about resolving it, and it has a very high ROI, for example, if you know you're going to get big bang for your buck by solving this problem, then that's really important. I see way too many organizations when we go in and we talk to them about data science capabilities, et cetera, and we ask them, what's your biggest organizational problem? And they give me a list of 20 things. Data scientists can eventually solve all those 20 things, but if you're asking a data science team or a data science consultant to execute on those 20 things, they can do 20 of them really shallow or one really deep. And I would always prefer the one really deep option. You always want to go into a lot of depth if your question's really important. So if you define the problem, everybody agrees what that problem is, you have an idea about what the value of solving that problem would be, and then you give your data scientists time and resources to execute on that, you're going to find amazing things. You're going to be able to do amazing things for your business. But all of those things kind of have to be aligned. So defining the problem, making sure that resources are aligned appropriately, data science to do it right. I have a saying that I use on my team all the time: data science is never done, it's only due. So you can tackle a problem, but you really want time to tackle that problem. You don't want to give your data scientists 6 weeks to execute on a problem. You want them to be able to really dive in and solve it. And one of the ways that they're going to be able to do that is by giving the time and resources necessary to do that. Also, it's very common for data scientists to sit on their own team. So you hire your data scientists at your company and they go sit in their data science group. And that's been shown through a number of studies that that's not the best and most effective way to use data scientists, because the data scientists need to be embedded in the parts of the company who have the problems you're trying to solve. Because if they don't understand the problem from an organizational perspective, they won't come up with very good answers for you. So you either need to pair your data scientists with business knowledge experts, or you need to put your data scientists on teams where they can solve problems that are related to those individual teams. And then let them go crazy and give them resources, give them things to do, let them go deep. When they finish one project, ask them what the follow-up is, because you'll be able to go on and get really, really good answers if you give them the leeway that they can do. If you give them a project and say, finish it in 6 weeks, they want an answer in 6 weeks, that you're just scratching the surface of what data science can do for you. And you never get to the more prescriptive elements of data science, which is that's the holy grail of what you want in data science. But a lot of companies stop after they have their first predictive model. So all of those things I think are really helpful. And of course, having a business strategists who are really reasonable about timelines and who are not opposed to data collection is really helpful. Ironically, with all of our discussions about data, one of the things that's changed in data science over the past 25 years is 25 years ago, you would go in and the first thing you would do is collect data because nobody had any data. Today, everyone has so much data, they're swimming in it. They have tons of data. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to manage it. It's not helping them because it's not clean. They don't necessarily know how to clean it up to make it useful for them. And then after you do clean it up, you find that it'll only get you so far. And so a lot of companies, because they're swimming in data, they don't see a need to collect any more data. But data collection is really important if you want to get prescriptive about how you can understand human behavior and manipulate it in some way that is more effective and gives you more advantageous business outcomes.